Aloha, and welcome back to another storytelling session with me, Kuahiwi Moniz-Tran. With this year's theme of Lanakila, to be triumphant, it made me think of a song that takes us back to the island of Maui, to the area known as Kahakuloa. I've learned this story from one of my many kumu in my olelo, Hawaii, at the University of Hawai at Manoa. And we talked about this little boy and this little girl that went adventuring off to the Kahakai, to the sea. And, there's many lessons that come with this story. One, you never turn your back towards the ocean for multiple reasons. You can't see an oncoming wave to your way that could knock you on your feet, drag you out. It's a disrespect to Kanaloa, and a few other cultural, appropriate things. So we are in Kahakuloa one early morning, and this brother and sister are walking along the tide pools. And the boy bends down to take a look at some of the fish and some of the limu. And when he stands up, he looks for his sister. And the sister is in no sight ever. And he starts to panic because his mother and father said, you guys two stick together. Take care of your sister. Now, he's a hiapo. He's the oldest. And so he's looking and he's calling out her name. And there's no response. So he starts to panic. Oh, no, I'm going to get lickings when I go home from my parents. So he starts to wonder about the tide pool, and he sees this shadow of his sister's hair, going deeper and deeper. So he puts his face into the water, and he sees that his sister is abducted by a puhi, by an eel. And the boy falls to his knees and he starts to cry. What is he going to do? Oh my goodness, what is he going to do? And he starts to cry, And then many sea creatures within the tide pool area hear of this boy crying, and they come to his aid. And they start to ask the little boy, why are you crying? What's wrong? And then the little boy starts to say this message, Ōpae E, Ōpae Hoi, Uahele mai au, na kuahine. He's saying, Ōpae, come to me, come. Hele mai, come to me. My sister, come. So the Ōpae swims to the little boy at the edge of the tide pool. And the Ōpae starts to say, ai. The boy says, ai puhi. Now, if you know what an Ōpae is, it's one of the small little brine shrimps that are frequent in tide pools, local vai, and we use this Ōpae to catch the more larger fish like opelu and papio, etc., more the carnivore fish. And the Ōpae is very, very tiny. So the Ōpae says, nui o puhi ali ili iau a olelo. The puhi is big. I'm small. No way, I ain't going to help you. And then the Ōpae swims away and the boy starts to cry. Oh, away, my tita. And then he sees another creature and he calls that creature over. Pupu e, pupu hoi. Wahele mai au, na kuahine. The little boy calls to the poo-poo, the shells and the tide pool. Poo-poo, shells, come to my aid, come and rescue me. Help me. Come, my sister. Come, nakuhine, come. The shells swim to the little boy at the edge of the tide pool. And then the message goes on. Aya puhi, nui o puhi, ali ili iau, a olelo. Once again, another sea creature says, the puhi is too big. I'm rather small. No way I can dominate the puhi and help you in your current situation. Kalamaya'u a olelo. The boy starts to cry. Ue. So that's already 2 sea creatures within the tide pools, within the papa, that refuse to help. The boy continues to cry. We have one more creature that comes by. Maybe this one will help. This creature that's introduced to the story is Ōpae E. Ōpae E hoi. Come help me. Wahele mai au. Na Kuahiwi. The little boy says, Ōpae E, come, my sister, come, help me. And the Ōpae E shares the same message as the Ōpae and the Pūpū. Nui o puhi, ali ili iau, I'm small. A olelo. And the boy starts to cry. He knows not only did he lose his sister, he going to get lickings when he go home. He never listened to his parents. And he cries, and one creature creeps over very, very slowly. He was hearing the little boy cry from the very beginning, and by the time he made his way, all of the other sea creatures came before this one. The little boy looks down, and he makes his plea to this one final creature. Opihi E. Opihi hoi. Wahele mai au. Na kuahine. Now, unlike the other sea creatures amongst the tide pools, the opihi is much more older, much more wiser, much more experienced, and definitely seen his years throughout the tide pool. And unbeknownst to the boy, the opihi sends a very special message. The opihi says, Mai makau. Don't be afraid. Na'u e pani. I'm going to close something. Ika maka, his eyes. A ike ole. And he won't be able to see. Ke la puhi. So the opihi tells the boy, Mai makau. Na'u e pani. Ika maka a ike ole ke la puhi. So the opihi latches himself away from the rock and he starts to swing and spin around to the bottom of the taipu where the puhi held on to the sister. The opihi crawled over to the head of the puhi and covers his eyes shut, and the puhi was going crazy all throughout the water trying to get and release this opihi from its face. That was the opportunity for the Kaikamahine, the sister, to swim out of the cave, swim back up to the taipu. She was rescued by her brother. The boat ran home, did not turn around, and did not ever speak of their story because they knew the parents would give them good scoldings. So the moral of this story, listen to your parents. But it also teaches you all these many creatures such as the Ōpae, the pūpū, the kupe. Now the kupe only comes out at nighttime. This is a daytime activity. But nevertheless, it taught the keiki, the different creatures. And the hero of them all was the lovely, lovely opihi. And that is the story of the Kaikamahine and her keiki at Kahakuloa, Maui. And with the lyrics of Ōpae E. I'm Kuahiwi Moniz-Tran. That is a true story of Lanakila to be triumphant. Aloha a hui ho. Malama pono.